Hi, this is May.
And I'm Joy.
Welcome to the QWERTY Writing Life Podcast, where we have candid chats about our creative lives.
May and I are friends, writers, and creatives who want to share our endeavors out loud.
On this podcast, we're here to encourage each other, and you too,
and share tools we've discovered or made up,
so you can follow your passions with a little support. So grab your tea
or your coffee,
and let's get started. And we are going to continue our conversation about the things that we thought we were doing right, but weren't as we began our author journey. And this week's topic is going to be about emotional readiness. But before we get into that, let's talk about all of the creative things that we did this week. What'd you do, Joy?
So this last weekend, I had a great opportunity in my community. We have my absolute favorite little free library. It is the TARDIS Little Free Library of Slidell. And yes, I did say TARDIS, so for all of you Whovians, you know exactly what I'm talking about. The rest of you probably think I'm crazy, and I am, but that's a whole other topic. So our little free library is literally shaped, it is the TARDIS. It's beautiful. It is a thing of beauty. And one of my dear friends, Amy, and her friend Paul, who has now become my friend, they got together and they made this thing happen. It was a dream, and it was so much fun to watch her through this whole thing and to make it a reality. And Paul built it, and it's gorgeous. I love it. And so it's right behind our little soda shop in our town. And so they had this event called Create Around the TARDIS this last weekend. And it was just so much fun. There were some ladies there knitting and crocheting. I sat there and helped my son revise the book that we talked about last week. He had done some reworking to that, and so I sat down with him. We went over it together, and then I also got together with a writer friend of mine who I am working on co-authoring a book with, and so we got to sit down and do our first brainstorming session, which was a lot of fun, and it was just so cool because, my community is a super creative community, and it's fun to find these events and then to connect with these other people who are creating in all the different ways. And so that was just super fun and exciting. Plus, I also got to sign the anthology that my short story is in and put that inside of the TARDIS.
Have we talked about that?
I don't think so. The Crux anthology is the beautiful dream and brainchild of Rachel Ritchie, who is a fantasy author in Washington State, and she is just one of the most wonderful people you will ever meet. So she came up with this idea, and it was a short story competition, and the winners would get to have their work published in an anthology. Adventure, sci-fi, and fantasy short story competition. Whew, that was a mouthful. Anyway, and so the result is the Crux anthology, which is available through Amazon and Barnes & Noble. And the coolest part about the whole thing is all profits go to Compassion International. So we have 16 authors from around the world who came together to write stories for this anthology, and all of us are equally excited about the fact that some money is going to this great organization. So it's pretty cool.
So Joy won. She actually got second place in the whole competition. So it's the first short story that you've submitted in a really long time, and it won second place, guys. So yay!
So tell me about your week. So what have you done creative?
Yeah. So my week has been a bit of a whirlwind. I am preparing for my mom getting remarried. So I promised her that I was going to make her this at first it was going to be a wreath. In the venue that she's using for her wedding, there is something that's permanently up on the wall, this big saw blade, and Mom just really, really hates it. Let this be my present to you. I'll make you something gorgeous to put over that saw blade. And then she sends me the dimensions of the saw blade. Y'all, it is 5 feet wide. 5 feet wide. So I have to figure out how I'm going to cover up a 5-foot wide saw blade. I came up with an idea. It's probably not the most efficient idea that I could have come up with, but it's what I came up with, and it was already implemented in part before I realized that it was a really bad idea. So what I did was I was like, I can't find a grapevine wreath that is 5 feet wide, right? So instead of a grapevine wreath, I'm just going to get like some boards from Lowe's and I'm going to make a 5-foot square frame. And then I'm going to get burlap and staple it to the back of it. And then I'm going to get like another piece of board and put it in the middle. And I'm going to nail a nail into that board on the front of the frame and hang this metal J, like her new last name is going to start with a J. I'm going to hang that in the middle. And then on the top left-hand corner, I'm going to do like this flower arrangement with magnolias and eucalyptus. It's going to be fabulous. And then the bottom left-hand corner, I'm going to do the same arrangement. So it'll have like this, equal but not equal situation going on. Anyway, so in my head, it's gorgeous. It's just fabulous. But what I did not take into consideration is that and I didn't know until after the frame was built by my fabulous husband, who is amazing, that it will not fit in my car.
Oh no!
So the wedding is 2 hours away. Yeah, I don't know how that's going to turn out. I'll let you know next week.
Yeah, seriously. Oh wow. So it will bring joy and it will bring laughter and it might bring tears, but hopefully it'll be the happy kind.
Yeah.
And that leads us to emotions.
It does. Oh, look at you.
I know.
You
had the good transition last week.
I love that. So yes, talk to us about some emotional readiness, Joy, in your author journey.
Okay, so I think that this is probably pretty common amongst authors or aspiring authors. We all go through a point when we start out where we are raring to go and we think that we are just gonna, knock out the words and we're gonna be published before we know it and everything's gonna be beautiful and rainbows and unicorns and all of that kind of stuff. I love unicorns. Anyway, sorry. So that's not really the case. When I kind of started up in 2010, I was like that. I was exactly like that. And then it just came to a day and I just stopped. I put my pen down. And looking back on it, I realized that I was not emotionally ready. I wasn't ready for the critiques. I wasn't ready for, failing or not being good enough by all the standards, whoever standards you want to hold it up to. And I was also scared and fearful of succeeding, which kind of was shocking. But when I looked back on those years, I realized that was what I was most fearful of. So, at the end of the day, I was not emotionally ready to take the next step. And so the pen got set down for a few years. Yeah. So have you had anything similar happen?
I have had a little bit similar happen there. Can I back up for just a moment? And I'm curious about you said that you had fear of success. Can you break that down a little bit?
Yeah, it's something that I still don't fully understand, I don't think, as to why. But I think at the time, I was also, another issue at that time in my life was I feel like I was a little bit more immature. And so I think that at the end of the day, I was worried that if I were to gain this great success, become the next Rowling or whatever it was, that I just wouldn't handle it well, that I would, not be humble with it, that I would let it go to my head or whatever, all the cliches that you could toss out there. But also I think that there was, and this wasn't quite as, I definitely would not have realized this at the time, but looking back, I think that there was also a thought of, okay, if I do succeed and I have this success, then there's going to be expectations. to keep
see
that
that
up
I
as
understand.
well.
Okay.
Yeah, so there was like, I think that there were layers to it, and I mean, obviously I didn't even realize that at the time, that was my biggest fear. So yeah, it's kind of weird.
No, that's just something that I've not been able to pick apart with somebody. And I've heard of fear of success from maybe one or two authors, but most of the fear that I hear about from other writers is the fear like self-doubt and almost to the point of paralysis and that sort of thing. But you were talking about, whenever we're gung-ho at the very beginning and we just, we think we're going to take over the world and everything's going to be, amazing. I do think that as writers and as creatives, there is a level of hubris that we have to have in order to decide that this is going to be the thing that we're going to do. I mean, we're going to create something out of nothing. We're going to create worlds and people and situations and stuff, and we feel like we can do it, we can do it well. And if we didn't feel that way, then we probably wouldn't stick with it, right? But writing and creative work always strips you down. And we might be creating fictional worlds and fictional works, but we are growing and evaluating ourselves and understanding ourselves more as we do that. And so if you're not ready to cry, if you're not ready to understand you, if it's more comfortable for you to kind of ignore the truth that's inside of you, then I don't know if you're ready to be a writer, because it was an unexpected consequence for doing this is the fact that emotionally you will be ripped apart. You'll be raw.
And I think like you'll find that some of what you consider your worst traits kind of bubble up to the surface as you're writing. Because I know as I was writing the novella that I was working on last year, that's when a lot of things kind of came to the surface for me. Issues that I have with relationships and I won't go into all the details, but I understood at that point the reason I was having trouble writing certain characters deeply was I tend to have walls. I have lots of walls, and I've done
really
that
adorable ones with yes. Unicorn murals on them.
Absolutely, definitely, and unicorn cats. I don't know. That's not a thing, but it could be. So yeah, I mean, I've always put up these walls to protect myself from certain things, and I had no idea that when I start writing characters, I'm going to have trouble writing deep characters that you can fall for, that you can understand, that you can come to know.
It's almost like indirect therapy. You accidentally figure out things about yourself while you're writing other people and creating other worlds and putting these people in situations. And I think what we subconsciously do when we write is that we put our characters in situations that scare us so we can see how they handle it.
Yeah.
And vicariously live through them for a moment and try to figure out why that scares us and why it's a thing. So emotional readiness is not just like about what's stopping you from writing, or why you're not an author or why you haven't been able to turn your hobby into a full-time career. It's not about the beginning, but it's also about the middle and it's about the end. Whenever you're creating something, you're digging into yourself and you're putting yourself in direct communion with your creator. It's a really personal thing. So So I think that that's more of the emotional readiness. I think if you understand that you're about to know more about yourself than you've ever known in your entire life, and you're cool with that, that's the emotional readiness that I think is important whenever you're diving into seriously considering a creative outlet.
Definitely. Yeah. Very good. Well said.
Well, thank you. Thank you, my friend. Before we leave this topic, you brought up this thing with us when we were just chatting about mom guilt and or spousal guilt or any kind of relationship guilt.
Yes.
Can you talk about that for a minute?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, like we said, it's not just mom guilt. So if you're not a mom, this still applies to you. So this can go for anyone. When you set about going off onto a creative path where you are trying to push this creative passion of yours into something that can be productive and bring in some income down the road and just be something that you can be successful in, you are going to put a lot of time into it. It's just the way that it works. And at the beginning, it's going to be a lot of time put in without a whole lot of reward. And so whoever it is that is they're the people in your life who enjoy spending time with you and who rely on you for things. Whoever those people are, they need to be behind you. Thankfully, I have a great husband and great kids who understand and they support me in that. But I know that there are times when it gets hard for them, or sometimes they get frustrated because something's taking longer than I told them it would or I thought it would. And so those feelings of guilt, the mom guilt, the whatever guilt, fill in the blank, comes in. But something that we have to remember is, first of all, you got to block off your time. You have to understand that they need their time and you have to plan it out. You can't do it without a plan. But you also have to understand that you are going to be a better person. You're going to be a better mom, a better dad, a better spouse, a better friend when you have put in the time to fill your own creative well and to, just take your passion and put it out there, whether it be on the canvas or the paper or whatever it is. So how do you handle that?
I think I just try to remember that whenever I am cooking and my kids are doing something different, or when I'm cleaning and my kids are doing something different, it's like when they're not around and I'm doing things for them, laundry, cooking, things like that, that they don't participate in, I don't feel guilt about that. I'm separated from them. I don't feel guilt about that. And I think that's because I feel like that is an action that directly benefits them. So I do try to remember that fulfilling my needs also benefits them because I'm a better mom. I'm a more patient mom. I'm a more fun spouse. I'm a more attentive spouse, more focused person, a more focused friend. Whenever I've had my time to be able to create, it can eat at you and it can kind of tear apart your soul, and it can also affect the time that the very small amount of time you probably allot yourself to do the things that you love. And if you're distracted by that, you're not going to create to the best of your ability either. Right. So just let it go.
Because you said something very beautiful about how you look at your creative time and how you want your boys to see you and how you are putting in this time.
Yeah. So when I first wanted to do this in 2016, I was reevaluating my life and I was looking at my boys and I was like just really concerned about the mentor or the model that I was giving them, because after having kids, I realized that they look at me and they look at my husband and we are their very first heroes. When they're 30, they're going to think back on the role that we played in their lives and our example, and they're going to make decisions based on that. It's not going to be the things that we say. It's not going to be the things that we want them to know. It's going to be the things that we practice that's going to affect them. Or the only way that I could show them an example of what I hope for in the future is to model that in my life now. Because it doesn't matter what I say. We all know that. It's not going to be what people say that's going to affect you. It's going to be what they do. They can tell you that they love you all day long. When they slap you in the face, that's what you're going to remember, right? So I wanted to show my kids what is important. And if I don't prioritize the things that are important to me in my own life. They won't do it in theirs when they're an adult. Let's go ahead and go into our QWERTY challenge. And this week we are going to challenge you to. You want to finish?
Okay. To also assess yourself like we did last week. We said it's time to assess yourself, which isn't easy. We know, we understand. And the question this week is, where are you emotionally? And that might be a difficult one to answer. And just like the one last week, this isn't something that you're going to ask just once. This is going to be something that you'll probably need to ask over and over throughout your time. So you want to go a little deeper into what we mean by that?
Yeah. So what we mean is that we want to make sure that you're ready, first of all, for the emotional challenge that creativity can bring if you want to make that a part of your life on a regular basis. So are you ready for that? Also, I just want to say that it's okay if you're not. If you're needing a little bit longer to build the foundation that is going to be firm and it's going to be strong and it's going to be everything that you need in order to jump off into the deep end, that is so fine if you need extra time. But if your instincts are telling you that it's time and that you're ready, then it's probably right. So we just want to encourage you to take stock on yourself. And if you haven't done that in a while, then we encourage you to do that, fresh and see. I actually have written in my 15-year career goal plan, I actually have the question written, does this still feel the desire of my heart? Is this still my passion? And it's a question that I have written down that I will evaluate at certain times in the year or every other year or whenever it's written in there, just to make sure that this is still what I want and what I'm called to do.
Because I can guarantee you the road will not be easy. So if it's no longer, just really filling you up like that, then it's not worth that.
Yeah, and why would you want to spend one more moment in a situation that you're not happy with? You probably have 1,000 of those already. So, and you won't find the thing that is going to be your thing if you're sticking with something that's not true to you.
Right.
So, and what if you go off and you try something new? And you decide, oh wait, writing was my passion, or this particular thing was my passion. I can tell you that that particular thing will welcome you back with open arms, and so will the community that's surrounding it. So
absolutely, because we've all been there. That's great. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Well, that's all we have for you this week. So we hope you enjoyed it. If you have any comments, please let us know. We love to talk to you, all of you people who are listening, and we will see you again next week.
Sounds great. Have a great week.
You too. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening until the end.
Seriously, you're a trooper.
Do you think QWERTY Writing Life is the bomb?
May, you just said the bomb.
Don't you censor me.
If you think QWERTY Writing Life rocks ice for real,
oh my word,
please rate, review, and share us with others.
If you have questions about this week's episode or want to start a conversation, you can reach us by visiting QWERTYWritingLife.podbean.com.
We'll be back next week with more candid chats for you.